This week we're going to be going over the suspension system on my TT4 350Z. Braking system, I would say the suspension is probably the next least complicated setup I have on the car. This is mostly a result of the fact that as I was building the suspension, it was a dual purpose car at the time and I did still have to drive it on the street. Right now it's got a set of Tein S-Tech lowering springs, Tokico Blue shocks, Eibach sway bars front and rear. All of the bushings on the front suspension are polyurethane. All the bushings on the rear suspension are still rubber because I'm waiting to change those out for when I go full adjustable. Got about -1 degree of camber in the front and -1.5 in the rear with 0 toe in the front and a very slight toe out in the rear. Similar to the braking, one of the biggest things helping my suspension is the fact that I've got that sticky Continental slick, and of course the fact that the car weighs 500 pounds less than stock. Between the lowered weight and the sticky tires, that's really the two biggest things that help the car handle well. And while it made an excellent dual purpose car, it's definitely too soft now. The sway bars are going to stay in, I'm not worried about those. I am going to do some adjustable end links for it just to make sure that there's no preload in the suspension. For adjustable arms, I'm going to go with Z1 competition set, so we've got Heim joints instead of the squishy factory rubber. So I'll have an A-arm in the front, toe arm in the rear, camber arm in the rear, and I'm also going to go with an ISR, a lower control arm in the rear to replace the bucket. I'm going to go for some adjustable true coilovers. I am not worried one bit about adjusting damping. I want a stiffer set of springs with a set rate damper. Whoever set it knows a lot more about suspension tuning than I do. I want a damper set to the spring. I don't want to worry about adjusting it. I'm just not knowledgeable enough to know what to change, when, and how much. Once I have all that adjustable suspension in place, for the coilovers, I'm wanting somewhere around 800 inch-pound springs in the front and around 450 inch-pound springs in the rear. Linear springs, I don't want any sort of progressive rate springs. What I'll probably do is call up Bilstein and get a custom set of B14s made so that I can get a nice fixed rate, proper damper with some stiffer springs. I don't know if I can get a true coilover from them for this car, so that'll depend on what they offer. I know their off-the-shelf B14 is not a true coilover in the rear, but I'm sure they could make one. I'm not sure how I'm going to set the suspension up. I'm probably going to go with 2.5 degrees of negative camber front and rear, light toe out at the front and 0 toe at the rear. See how that works. Nice thing about adjustable suspensions, I don't have to get it right the first time. I can play with it. Once I find a happy spot, I can leave it there. When I'm done, every suspension bushing on the car will be polyurethane or a solid mount. I'm going to go ahead and solid mount the rear subframe, and really again that should be it. Just a nice set of coilovers, the sway bars I've already got, and adjustable suspension arms. Oh, I'll also need to fix the roll center and bump steer in the front, so that shouldn't be too hard. They do have a couple different options on the market for this car. Again, the biggest advantage is going to be the reduction in weight, but what I'm going to have to do for TT4 is I'm going to have to add about 200 pounds of ballast, which you might be thinking, oh, that's awful, why would you want to add ballast back to the car? You spent all that time losing weight. I can add all that weight back exactly where I want it. So between adding that ballast back in the rear and on the passenger side of the car and adjusting the coilovers a little bit, I should be able to get the exact same weight on the car in all 4 corners, which should make the handling extremely neutral and make the car a lot quicker. And of course, like I mentioned in the braking video, I'm going to be stepping up to some 275 slicks, probably a Hoosier A7 or R7. I haven't quite decided yet. Got plenty of time to work on that. The suspension system I'm running now isn't bad. I don't have any issues out of it other than heavy braking. Heavy braking, I get so much nosedive that the rear gets light and starts to squirm. So it's really costing me at least 1 to 2 seconds of braking time off of the main straight, trying to keep the car settled under heavy braking. It's really frustrating knowing that the car has more brake in it, but the suspension's holding it back. If you have any questions about my current suspension setup, or if you have any comments about what I'm planning for the future, go ahead and drop those below, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next week with a BMW video, or in a couple weeks for part 4.